usually the good things are on the other side of discomfort. And we have this natural biological tendency to lean away from discomfort. But if you can push through, that's usually where the reward is.
Welcome to the Sidehustle Lounge. If you're looking for flexible ways to earn income, grow your mindset, and live the lifestyle you've always dreamed of, you're in the right place. So lower the lights, grab your favorite beverage, and join your host, founder of NotaryCoach.com and Amazon best-selling author of Sign and Thrive, How to Make Six Figures as a Mobile Notary and Loan Signing Agent, Bill Soroka.
Cheers, and welcome to my next guest, Greg Rodgers. Greg is a travel writer and adventurer. Greg, welcome. I'm so glad to have you on the show.
Thanks, Bill. Really happy to be on your show.
Well, this is truly an honor to have you on the show, Greg. For those who maybe don't know Greg ranks in the top 3 writers that have completely changed my life, changed my way of thinking, which I'm so grateful for. You know, in the early 2000s, I was big into lifestyle design and vagabonding, thanks to Tim Ferriss and Greg Rodgers. Greg, your blog, and in particular, your article, Escape the Cubicle, changed my life. And it allowed me to believe that there was something more to life than just working for other people in a cubicle in a call center. So thank you so much for writing that and continuing to live your lifestyle. Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, Bill, first I've got to say, you've got the smoothest intro to any podcast I've ever listened to. I mean, I feel like I got invited to a jazz party at the Playboy Mansion or something. I love it.
That's exactly the vibe I was going for.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. Yeah. So the blog, I'm amazed every day really at how much it changed my life. You know, it's helped me meet extraordinary people like yourself, and it's really opened up a lot of opportunities I didn't expect. And, I left my job at IBM in 2006. I was an engineer, and the last thing I expected to end up was a writer, especially a travel writer. And the blog, it was an accident in itself. You know, I planned to just use Yahoo email and send these group emails out where I would attach photos of my trips, and they were so big they were getting rejected. So I went out and found a free travel blog on bootsandall.com. Shout out to the Portland guys. And Rolf Potts was affiliated with those guys and friends. And one thing led to another. And, here we are.
Yeah. Well, and back then, I mean, the early 2000s, I mean, you were a trailblazer. This idea of vagabonding, blogging your way around the world, that was kind of cutting edge stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks to, I think, Tim Ferriss, Rolf Potts, or maybe it was under the radar, and because of the internet, we heard about it more.
Yeah, precisely. As Rolf Potts' book, Vagabonding, like so many other people, that really inspired me and put me on the path. And, you hit on something. That's why I've been working on this scienceofescape.com, this new site and course is back in 2005 when I was wanting to start doing this, I didn't really have a lot of role models or mentors. There was nobody in my circle or family who had left a job and gone to travel the world or started vagabonding. And so aside from, some forums and Rolf Potts' book, I didn't have a lot of people I could ask, real world advice. And I wanted to make it easier for other people to do what I did back then.
So let's talk about that for a minute. What is, number one, what is vagabonding? What's that mean?
Yeah, well, it doesn't necessarily mean having to, give up all your material belongings and start, sleeping on trains or whatever. That's a misconception, but that's an option, but you don't have to. So Rolf Potts, I believe, had the best definition in his book. He said it's just a deliberate way of living. You're reprioritizing your life so that extended long-term travel becomes possible. So, we're used to vacation style travel, which is expensive and it's a lot of trouble. When you come back from a 1 week or God help you, a 2 week trip, you've got a full inbox, your projects are, all over the place, and you kind of get punished for taking this vacation. And, statistics show so many vacation days go unused in the United States every year. And that's because people know when they step away for too long, they're going to get punished for it. And so vagabonding, you structure your life in a way that you can go for 3 months, 6 months, a year, or as long as you like.
And does it have to be quote unquote glamorous travel, Greg? Or does vagabonding count anywhere you go?
Yeah, I believe you can be vagabonding at home. When you return home from a long trip and you are working and saving money again or whatnot, in my opinion, you're still vagabonding. You're still thinking and planning and structuring things for that next trip. Your life is oriented around experiencing the world, meeting people. I always like to use the example, I hate to start attacking smartphones here, but every year a new smartphone comes out and it's more expensive than last year's model, right? And if your current phone still works, well, if you upgrade to this new model, that's what I pay to spend a month or two scuba diving and living in Asia, right? So do I really need that new phone, or can I go to Asia for 2 months, right? So
wow.
It's really just a way to realign your decisions.
Do you think that because of maybe the shift in the way the U.S. or the world is working now since the pandemic, do you think there could be a rise in the vagabond lifestyle and possibilities?
Yeah, 100%. We see now even traditional companies are way more comfortable with a work from home model than they used to be, obviously. And, 16 years ago, when I was working at IBM, I was a network guy, network security guy. I had the capability to work from home back then. We had VPNs 20 years ago, but it wasn't really a part of the culture. So it was still kind of frowned upon, right? And that has lingered even now, 20 years later. It still seems like some companies have a traditional model where they don't like the idea of their employees, working in flip-flops or whatever. So
that's a shame.
Yeah, exactly. But I really think that's going to be a boom here soon. So-called digital nomad movement. It was already booming before last year. So I think we're going to see that much more now that people are comfortable with the tools to work online.
I want to talk a little bit more about that too, but first I'd like to introduce our audience to your story and how you made it happen. 16 years ago, you said?
Yeah, well, I made the decision in 2005, and then I left my job January 1st, 2006, and 2 weeks later, I was on a one-way flight to Thailand, of all places. And so I started in corporate America at a young age. I was 19, and I was an electronics technician for a company called Lexmark here in town. And all my other friends were out partying, being normal 19-year-olds, and I spent 3 years already working for the corporate world right before I turned 21. And then I went to the Army to get a little bit of adventure, and I came back and I started at IBM in 1998 and bought a house and kind of got on track for the standard issue American dream lifestyle, and unlike your recent guest, was it Jen Eck?
Jen Enck, yeah.
Jen Enck, yeah. Unlike her, it sounded like she enjoyed her job. I did not. I did like the technical aspects. I did not like the corporate culture and the politics around it. And so I believe it was in October 2005. Actually, I'm not sure of the month, but at one point, I'd been working 60 or 70 hours a week. And, anytime one of the networks I built in the world went down, I was on the phone. Didn't matter if it was weekends, 4 a.m, holidays. And meanwhile, IBM was doing a lot of outsourcing, and my workload was increasing. And at one point, I needed some business cards because I was going out and meeting with engineers, right? And IBM asked me to buy my own business cards.
Wow.
So here, this multi-billion-dollar company, and at the time, executives were getting 7-figure bonuses and that sort of thing. And there was just kind of like an epiphany there. And I thought, man, I'm on the hook for my own business cards, right? And here I am working, extraordinarily hard. And so I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Yeah. And I went and spoke with my manager, and I asked for 3 months unpaid leave. And, I was turned down because we were so busy. So I went back to my desk and typed up a letter of resignation.
Wow. Just jumped right on it.
Yeah. I realized I kind of had an epiphany. There was like a eureka moment where I really got honest with myself, and I realized a couple of things. One was that a lot of the senior people that I worked with weren't much happier, and they had a lot more money, but they were still as stressed out as I was. So in my mind, climbing the ladder and earning more money in this environment didn't necessarily equate to more happiness, right?
Right.
And the second thing I realized was that most of the things I really wanted to do didn't take that much money in the first place. At the time I was into hiking, a rock climber. I was studying Chinese Kung Fu. I like to study languages, read, I like to grow plants. None of those things cost very much. All they really cost is time. And I didn't have much time left because I was selling it all for money. Right. And so in theory, I should have had a lot of money, but where was the money going? It turns out I was spending the money to buy things that were supposed to boost my time and happiness. So full circle. And there's diminishing returns there, right?
Right. What a vicious cycle. So how did you overcome the fear of, number one, I'm sure you're surrounded by people who thought this was just ridiculous, so foolish to leave the corporate job that everybody would want. So how do you overcome that social pressure, the fear of what might be coming next?
Right. Yeah, that's something I talk about a lot in my course is how much power the environment has over us. They always say to surround yourself with people who are more successful, and it raises your internal thermostat. And your environment has a pull on you at all times. So, if you're surrounded by negative people, it's going to be harder to be happier. Or if you're surrounded by a real consumerist culture, it's going to be difficult to live minimalist, right? So I started changing my environment. I started really paying attention to the media I consumed, the books I read. I also a fan of Timothy Ferriss, and kind of delved into the culture, and that showed me that I wasn't alone. I wasn't the first one to do something like this. It's easy to feel like you're a pioneer when you're actually not. Right? Yeah. Even before Rolf Potts started vagabonding, the hippie trail was a thing. And before the hippie trail was a thing, Kerouac and the Beats were a thing in the 50s, right? And
right.
Before the Beats were a thing, Marco Polo was doing his thing, right? So you can keep going back. You're not the first, even though it feels like it, but you're just pushing into the unknown for yourself.
And there is something really powerful about realizing that there's other people that have gone through this with you, kind of blaze a trail, shine a light back for you.
Yeah, if anyone's ever done any cliff diving or cliff jumping, you know that it is so much easier to be the second person. When you're the first person, you don't know if there's going to be a sea turtle that's swimming by, or if it's deep enough or whatnot. But if someone's gone before you, then you're so much more comfortable doing something new.
Well, and I think it shows you the possibilities. It reminds me of that story about Roger Bannister, right? The first guy to run a mile under 4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like through recorded history, nobody had ever done that before. And then he does it And then I think he held the record for like 26 or 28 days or something. Then suddenly everybody could do it.
Yeah, exactly. And the beautiful thing is, there were all these skeptics because he only beat it by, a fraction of a second or whatever.
Yeah.
And people were saying, oh, it was the time or it was the judge or whatever. But then, suddenly this torrent of people started doing it, and that shut the skeptics up pretty quickly, right? So they just needed someone to show that it was biologically possible. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, powerful. On the practical level, Greg, when you made that decision and you changed your network and you started filling space with possibilities, but there's still the practical money matter. How did you structure that? Did you have some savings? Did you just have faith? Did you leave IBM and immediately know how you were going to generate income? How did that look?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I did stop buying things as soon as I realized that I was going to be doing something like this. And, it's amazing how much money comes out of your account in ways that you don't even realize, like subscriptions and memberships and all these little things that add up, and I turned that drip off and just started saving money. And even still, when I started vagabonding, my savings were nowhere where they should have been. So, I did do it cheap. I stayed in hostels and I couch surfed. And, at the time, a bungalow in Thailand was $10 a night,
Oh, wow.
So, mind you, this is 2006. And, still, that type of travel is still way less expensive than people realize. We've kind of calibrated our thoughts on money and travel based on vacations and domestic travel. But the reality is it takes way less money than you think.
Let's talk about that. Is that why is that part of the reason, at least, that you chose Thailand as your first destination?
No, actually, that's an embarrassing story.
Oh,
yeah. So I had actually initially chosen to start in South America. So I had this massive South America Lonely Planet guidebook, and this thing was as big as an old telephone book. And I would highlight it and underscore things I wanted to do. And that was kind of my little escapist activity. I'd come home from a tough day at work or whatever at IBM, and I would get this book and start daydreaming about Machu Picchu. And I was studying Spanish. And just one random night, I went out to my local Irish pub here. And I was friends with one of the barbacks, and the guy was tanned, and it's winter. And I was like, hey, man, you been into the tanning bed? And he said, no, I've just come back from Thailand. I just spent 30 days in Thailand. And I was like, whoa, really? Tell me more. And so he painted a picture for me. And I got home that night and just on a whim checked flights, and they were way less expensive than flights to South America. And at 2 a.m, I booked a flight. And I woke up the next day and thought, oh my God, what have I done?
2:00 a.m. while you're at an Irish pub or right after. So there's probably some whiskey or beer involved in the decision.
Yeah, you don't expect to find yourself standing at a life crossroads at 2 a.m, looking at the final buy button or final buy screen on our flight booking. But that's what happened. And, the next day I thought, oh no, what have I done?
So how long before you left?
Well, I gave a 3-month notice and, just started, I'd already sold my house and started organizing my life, selling things and telling goodbyes. And just, I was so naive and inexperienced. I spent way more than I should have on travel gear that never got used.
Right.
And, just kind of in a frenzy, getting ready to face the unknown. And you can picture like this guy with implements hanging all over his belt. Remember I used to be an Army guy, right? And I was a geeky engineer. So I had overthought things for every single possible thing that could go wrong, you know,
Right.
so I had way too many gadgets and that sort of thing.
It's so funny because I remember in a few books that I read, they always talked about that. So, and then me, even before I'd even booked a trip anywhere, and I haven't traveled really abroad very much at all, but I did the same thing. I still do it. I've got this, I call it my adventure box, full of crap that I will never have to use unless there's some sort of apocalyptic situation.
Yeah, but if the zombies are kicking down your door, you're definitely ready, right?
I'm the guy you want on your team. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I've got 8 ways to treat water, and, you know, as if they don't sell bottled water in Thailand, right?
Right. Exactly. You just never know. You brought up an interesting point, though. You said that you kind of started saying goodbye to friends and family. How did your family handle this decision?
Well, that's a really good question. They were very loving and wanted to be supportive, but also didn't really understand. You know, just coming from a different generation, a different era, and then not helping things. You know, the economy was on its way down, and so here I am leaving. You know, what people call "quote unquote" a good job. You know, right before the economy tanked. And it turned out to be the best decision I've made in my life. But at the time, you know, I live in Lexington, Kentucky. There's not a real travel culture here. So most people value stability and that sort of thing, right? So I was kind of swimming upstream. I was balking the trend at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And still they came together and supported?
Yeah. You know, going forward year after year, I would come back for Christmas or to visit, and they would ask me, well, are you done? Or is it out of your system?
Uh-huh.
But, you know, after 15 years, I think now they realize that this is kind of, this is my thing. You know, it's what I do and I love it. So.
Was the job at IBM, was that your last W-2 job?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
Yep.
So you've had 15, 16 years now of some form of self-employment to support your travel habit.
Yeah. A bulk of that was writing and photography. So writing first, you know, the blog, how we met, it opened up some other opportunities for me. That's kind of a neat thing. You never know who's reading when you put something out there. And that led to some work, and bought myself an SLR and started learning photography and kind of did both. And yeah, it was enough to support my travel. I'm also the Asia expert for Trip Savvy. I've done that for 10 years now. So,
all right. So without deviating from your passion, in fact, just feeding into it, you've been able to generate an income that supports it. Would you consider yourself unemployable at this point?
Sadly so. You know, I still love the technical and the hacking world, but, you know, obviously that moves so quickly, you have to stay current or you're going to be useless. And I was busy traveling. And also, I don't think that I could thrive in that sort of environment anymore. You know, I'm used to working when and where I like, and I'm willing to structure my life and, you know, pay accordingly so that I can still enjoy this location independent way of working.
I love that. That's my ultimate goal, is that location independence. And how does the photography play into your life here? How do you, what's that business look like?
Well, now it's more or less just for fun. You know, now that I've been working on the course, I primarily do writing, but the photography, you know, I had several trips, got to cover the Rainforest World Music Festival in Borneo, and a couple other just amazing opportunities. It's funny, if you put a press pass around your neck and you're clutching an SLR, the places that you can get into. You know, you can get unexpected access and some neat perks as you travel.
Oh, I bet. What's your favorite story about that?
Oh, goodness. put me on the spot,
I
and I don't want to get myself in trouble.
That's okay.
I would say probably that Borneo Music Festival. I got to hang out with the bands between the shows, and kind of see things behind the scenes. And then, way more embarrassing, my very first assignment, I covered 2 months of spring break in Acapulco for American Eagle, the clothing company.
Oh, yeah.
So you can imagine being on spring break for 2 months, how that went. at age 32, mind you. Yeah.
So how many continents have you been on, Greg, and how many countries?
Bill, I honestly, sitting here, I couldn't tell you how many countries. And that kind of, shows how much value I give to that,
right,
to a country count. I know it's somewhere in the mid 30s.
Nice.
Which is actually not a lot for someone who's been vagabonding as long as I have. I repeat a lot. Most often.
Question. Yeah. Do you just find what you like and go back?
Yeah, that's what happens often. So rather than incrementing that counter, I end up in a place like Indonesia. Well, I mean, it's huge, right? There's thousands of islands, literally. And I can feel as if I'm exploring a new country just by going to a different part of Indonesia. And
that brings up a really good point, Greg, because do you find that, so number one, you get people who break out of the traditional work cycle to get into vagabonding, but then do they sometimes tend to buy into that philosophy of vagabonding and then start just checking off boxes again, just in a different environment?
Yeah, everyone's got a different priority. I see a lot of travel writers and influencers who have been to 50 or 60 or more countries, and they spent a month in each, and most of that month they were on a laptop, right? And I just didn't want to do it that way. So I find myself moving very slowly, which works. And if I add a new country, that's great. But if I don't, then I don't even think about it.
Sounds like heaven. Do you have a next trip planned right now?
Bill, I would love to travel with you. So anytime, anywhere, man.
All right. Well, you got my wheels turning for sure.
Yeah.
I know there's going to be people listening that probably have been dreaming about this lifestyle, very similar to the way I have. Would you have any next steps for somebody that wanted to start transitioning into this lifestyle?
Yeah, certainly. Well, for starters, like we touched on, change your environment. Start really paying attention to the people you talk to, the media you consume, and that sort of thing. And that has a nice effect of, it starts conditioning your brain to feel that what you're about to do is normal. So what you're trying to do is kind of fly under the radar so that you don't trigger stress or a fight or flight response from your brain. And the more that you let it know what you're about to do is no big deal, versus going into the unknown, there's the greater chance that you're going to pull it off and have the courage to make the leap.
Great advice. Any other steps?
Yeah, people can start by, I would suggest staying curious, which is really the main reason, most of us travel extensively anyway. If you understand the mechanism behind why things work the way they do, then you can more easily change things. So it's kind of the hacker ethos. And so stay curious, and so start asking yourself, what are my priorities? What would make me most happy? What are my values, and what's stopping me? So that's why I wrote this. I have a module on scienceofescape.com about overcoming your fear. It's free. People can go download it, but it touches on the neurochemistry and why people feel stuck in their current situations. I didn't do anything special. I'm not rich. I'm not a ninja. I don't have a degree in Cubicle escape. There should be one for that, but there's not, unfortunately. Anyone can do what I did. You just have to make that big leap.
And then the money component is important too. And I love that you mentioned how easy it is to unconsciously spend. And here, part of the Side Hustle Lounge, we do a Stop the Burn Money Challenge, where it just takes control of those finances. So you can see those hidden subscriptions, those things that you might be paying monthly, quarterly, even annually that sneak up on you. For me, I was able to save almost embarrassingly, Greg, about $10,000 a year after doing this for 4 days. I found
Brilliant.
so much slipping there. So that really is, and my goal is to live this lifestyle like you have too. So that, guys, if you're interested in that Stop the Burn Money Challenge, whether it's officially through Side Hustle Lounge or just doing it on your own, take control of that money. Greg, any other final steps, any final thoughts for our audience of beginning vagabonders?
Yeah, just keep your hope up, know that you can do this. Look into shifting to an internal locus of control. So Google it, read about it, just start taking responsibility for your own outcomes, and the good ones and the bad ones. And when you do that, you give yourself power, and then you can better control things in the future. You're not just relying on luck or fate or whatever. And then I would also add, do what makes you uncomfortable. That's usually the good things are on the other side of discomfort. And we have this natural biological tendency to lean away from discomfort. But if you can push through, that's usually where the reward is. So just daily, you can start doing little things. If you're awkwardly shy like I used to be, just start talking to strangers. Or if you have a fear of heights, then go to a climbing gym. Start doing what makes you uncomfortable.
That is such great advice. And as I'm taking notes on our conversation here, I'm looking at the quote that's here in Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. Today's quote: "Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear," by George Adair. How perfect.
Yeah, I love it. And that just, it really underscores the importance of getting over fear to get to the good things. There's a really widespread misconception that extensive world travel is only accessible to the rich or the retired people, right? And that's just simply not true. And you don't have to be a broke vagabond or a gap year student either. There's a lot of middle ground there. So anyone can go out and experience the world.
Greg, and that's the biggest gift that you've given me, and I hope the rest of this audience as well, is when I read your article and when I have these conversations and I continue to read your blog, you instill hope and possibilities for living this non-traditional location-independent lifestyle. So thank you for that, and thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, for doing what you do to inspire people and to spread the good word. I think you also bring a lot of hope to people who want to start their own projects.
Yeah, it's really, truly my pleasure. I pinch myself every day. I think we made some good decisions, Greg. We really do get to make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time for sure.
Thanks, Bill.